Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Hey, guys. Today we're talking about patch notes for update 45. So we'll be going through all the patch notes. They're done accepting feedback. They've got a different location if you still have some. But in theory, most of what's going to happen in 45 is out. So that's what we're going to go over today. I'm going to start with, I think it makes sense to start out with the newest patch notes, some of the smaller changes they've made here with 10.3.4 versus 10.3.0, if you're keeping track of how these patch notes are divided. As always, if there's any questions, drop them in the comments below. Oh, I don't have my chat bot up. Hey, Mother Clucker, what's going on? Let me get that chat bot going here, guys. Sorry about that. Cool. Your hair always on point. I appreciate it, Mother Clucker. Literally on point. It just, or pointy. Yeah, it just wants to stand up. People have asked me, I think most of my life, like, what do you do to get your hair to like stand up like that? And the answer is nothing. I just wake up like this. It just wants to, it's like a chia pet. It just wants to grow up. It wants to grow out. And so that's just the way it is. Well, cool. We'll just give everybody a few seconds here to get in, and then we'll kind of walk through it. I think we'll go through most of the patch notes here today. So we'll take our time. If you guys want to chat about anything, any questions, as always, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can always, if you have questions about builds and stuff, I don't want to like derail the whole conversation, but if it's a quick question, happy to answer it. Hey, Boss, what's going on? Mother Clucker says, hey, just hanging out with a few before my class starts. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Mother Clucker taking night classes, getting an education. That's awesome. Robert, it's good to see you. All right. Well, I think we've given a few minutes here. Let's go ahead and just double check that the stream is good. All right. Looks like we're looking good. Let's take a look. Okay, so Elder Scrolls Online V 10.3.4 introduces bug fixes and improvements across Fallen banners. Guys, at 4 o'clock, I always come from the gym and I showered and I haven't quite stopped sweating yet. But I'm a sweaty gamer, so we'll just go with it. So improvements across Fallen banners, Greymoor base zones as we enter the last week of PTS. Additionally, there are some fixes and adjustments to Vengeance campaign abilities based on your feedback. Lastly, there are some fixes for housing and event content, in addition to other minor fixes for the base game content. As we close our PTS testing for update 45, if you have feedback, it just tells you where to provide it. Cool. Well, let's take a look. And I don't know if this is the best way to go about this. It might be the exact opposite way to go about this, but we're going to try it. All right, so abilities with cooldowns can no longer be queued if their slot was attempted to be activated while on cooldown. This resolves the unintended action to cast an ability the instant their cooldown ends. I am not sure what ability this is supposed to be in reference to or like, dealing with. So you guys let me know in the comments if you know what this is all about. Mother Clucker says, yep, data analytics and AI certificate in biology. Okay, certification in biology, but I might change it to computer science because coding is fun. That's awesome. I mean, coding is fun. That's a good, if you like coding, Mother Clucker, a lot of jobs out there. That's awesome. Cool. So I don't know exactly what abilities that you would queue up while on cooldown, but I assume that it is some niche situations where this is incredibly important. That's awesome. Robert says, I'm doing my second master's in DA also. Okay, those might be references to the Vengeance campaign skills. Some of them, like Streak, I think, has a cooldown. Boss, thank you. I haven't actually tried those out. Okay, cool, thank you. I've been on PTS, but I haven't tried that out. All right, skill styling. The Snipe Vibrant Yellow. Okay, so that's just fixing a visual bug. That's cool. We got our 2 dungeons, the Exile Readout and Lep Seclusa. So both of these are, I don't know if you guys know, but the 2 new dungeons, we won't go into them too much because I know a lot of people like going in blind, myself included. We won't actually talk about those, but these 2 are, there are some bug fixes for stuff that wasn't working right, but they're very much, even though they're PvE dungeons, they're all PvP themed. So you kind of get the idea. You hardcore PvPers, I know they're making the changes to where, they're doing away with typical skills and having specific PvP skills now to try to reduce the load on the servers and make it more playable in PvP. A lot of the other changes I have heard from a lot of people that are not what PvPers have asked for with the battlegrounds in particular, and kind of adding some features to that. You guys tell me. I don't usually PvP all that much. And then the Earth Forge, now it's proper loading screen. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So we'll be able to cruise through some of these. These are just kind of minor things. So they fixed the dig site and the reach. It's so weird. I know it's different groups, but when they fix minor bugs like this, and there's like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. Let me change this so you can see it. And there's massive, massive issues with the game in certain places. It's always just, it's incongruous for me, and it feels really weird. PvP is too sweaty, Motherclucker says. Yeah, it is a little, it's the same with all MMOs, right? If you go into PvP and you're not really prepared for PvP, it's usually not a good experience, and you're just there to farm kills or allow other people to farm you for kills. It's kind of funny. All right, so Alliance War and PvP addressed an issue that allowed some armor traits to functions in the Vengeance campaign. Okay, so this is trying to solve a lot of those issues. Abilities with cooldown should no longer randomly fire if attempting to recast. Then while still on cooldown, these abilities include, okay, Crim Focus, Shadow Cloak, Surge, Bolt Escape. Okay, so I think this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. It seems like what ESO is somewhat going towards is almost they are actually like splitting off in a lot of ways PvP from PvE, and in a lot of ways they're also simplifying it to where it's not just about the person with if you have a decent PvP setup, like just generic crafted gear, what have you, but it's in the right traits and everything else, right skills on your bar, you're just gonna wreck anybody who just comes in and doesn't know what they're doing, or comes in a PvE setup or something like that. And that's what makes PvP not fun for people, if they have to read a book or sorry, checking on the rabbits, or something else, like watch 6 videos and study and talk to friends before they can even go into PvP and have fun. Whereas if you look at like a PvP specific game, and again, we're talking about different kinds of games, right? Totally different. Kind of different styles of game. Most recently, Marvel Rivals, right? But if you look at any other sort of, for those not familiar with this style of game, they're basically, you have characters you can pick, and they will have a set of skills, but you're talking like 3 or 4 skills, and that's it. Your character might move differently, you might have different abilities. Now, this is very much different than what ESO, right? Everybody has the same base speed and stuff like that. That's not really the same. There's verticality in those other games, but it's still the idea that your characters are very much balanced against each other, and it's simplified so that there's just not this huge gap in knowledge that if you don't have, you can't compete at all. You can still get on those games. Now, you're not going to be incredibly good, but you can still get on them, press buttons, and have fun, which I think is really the entry level that you need. It's just hard. How do you keep the people that are really sweaty at these things still enjoying themselves and still having a good time? Typically in MMOs, what you have is that there are a lot of people that only PvP or mostly PvP, and they do it a lot. And a lot of them have that they get their kicks off of like destroying people that don't know what they're doing at the game. So one person can kill 10 people, right? And it's like, feels great for them. They get to kill 10 people. And maybe it's fun for those 10 people if they actually had a shot and they're like trying really hard. But usually the imbalance is what a lot of people go to MMOs for, because if they wanted a fairly balanced game, they could play something else. But then it's not as fun, because you can't just automatically win by having a decent gear setup against 80% of the community. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see how the PvP kind of evolves. What's up, Wampus? There are good and bad changes to BGs. The way flags are positioned, this is from Boss. The way flags are positioned in flag games is better because it actually makes you have to PvP, but the lack of map diversity and one-sided teams hurts. Yeah, it's really funny. I was leveling up PvP just like last week, and again, this isn't with the latest changes from this patch. It was on live, but I was on a team where the other team didn't have a chance, and then the next round I was on the team that didn't have a chance. And it was like, cool, there's literally nothing we can do. Put your character on auto walk and like walk away from your computer. That's basically what it was like. And then you're just waiting. I think there are also some problems with the deathmatch style, where you'll have people that are just like, your team is lost, and I've been on the team with a guy, we lost and he just didn't want to die, and he's like hanging up a death match where people didn't even want to jump down, and it's like, yeah, this is so one-sided that my team doesn't even want to jump down to engage in combat. It's kind of broken, it's kind of messed up. 4v4 before the old maps added a good level of reversal potential that made things very fun, and not every match became one-sided. Yeah, specific map related tech was also cool. New maps have hella invisible walls. Okay, all right, that's good to know, Boss. Yeah, one of the things that on all of these maps, the 3v3, one of the problems they had is that two teams teaming up against the third team. Ideally, what you would have is that the two weak teams would team up against the strong team. They could actually implement mechanics to encourage that sort of behavior, right? Like award points for capturing that team's relic, right? Double points or whatever it is, but they, I don't know, that stuff requires thought, and it's a lot easier to just make a new map and change the teams and not really change very much. You'd actually have to implement a system that made sense, and I don't know if they're at a point where they're going to do anything like that. But yeah, the one team versus another team, team one versus team two stuff, whatever it is just it's weird because it makes Battlegrounds even less enjoyable, I think, for most people. At least that's been my experience. I would be curious what you guys think. Has anybody found that if you're queuing solo, not with organized groups, or if you are queuing with organized groups, let me know about that specifically. Have you found it actually to be better? Because I personally have not. Lionel says, I miss old BG. They were more fun. Okay, cool. Yeah. 8v8. Way more fun. Okay, I haven't tried the 8v8, Robert. I actually should. I just haven't really. Lionel says keep 8v8, but also add back 4v4 before. I also miss the old maps. Yeah, and I mean, once they've retired them for a little bit, bringing them back so that there's more variety would be great. Cool. So, this random, I didn't know about this. I don't know if that was just something that affected people on PTS, and if we're talking about some of the similarly named skills, the new skills. I forget what are we calling the class of PvP skills? Is there a name for those now? All right, fix several errors with vengeance abilities. That's what it is. Okay, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. So those are vengeance abilities, and then we got some vengeance abilities now. So Arcanist, the imperfect ring / fulminating ruin. The damage now correctly hits stealth targets. Okay, I think there's some issues with stealth. Path of Darkness, this ability no longer impacts more than the listed 3 targets. Remember, guys, these are the vengeance abilities that we're talking about here. And then Strife, the heal from this ability now correctly can critical strike. Okay, the heal from this ability now correctly heals allies, as the tools tip states. Is this good at all? It's garbage in PvE. we should take a look. Cyrodiil PvP is much better. Yeah. The issue with Cyrodiil is like it just takes so long to get anywhere that by the time I get anywhere, I don't care. And I don't care what we're doing. I don't want to participate. So I think it makes a huge barrier to entry. I have tried Cyrodiil several different times. Never really got it. There was a brief period where I was like enjoying it, but then I like stopped doing it, and I just never really went back. Healing Ritual, this ability, and I know that like I'm not saying it's bad, guys, just to be clear. I'm just saying for me, I know that a lot of you guys really enjoy it, and the team aspect too, whenever you're getting groups together and what have you, makes for some interesting play. Boss says, I think Vengeance Strife works like a single target, puncturing sweeps. Now it's a directional heal instead of a hot. Oh, okay. Templar, so we get Healing Ritual. This ability no longer ignores line of sight checks when using the ability. And Sun Shield, the shield provided from this ability will now correctly shield damage. Oh, that's good. It just wasn't working at all. Robert Miller says, I enjoy Cyrodiil, but it seems like you really need a guild or a group to plan with. Yeah, I think it's the barrier to entry, which is why I do BGs if I do really anything, just because I can instantly queue. And I mean, the first time you get into Cyrodiil, like figuring out how to get in there, get around, leave whenever you want to, being locked in, it doesn't feel good, to be totally honest with you. Warden Living Vines updated this ability to a targeted heal. Okay. Mother Clucker says true. If you're not in a Zerg, you probably won't get much done unless you're trying to do the PvE aspects of Cyrodiil. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Lionel. We have the same mentality. That's why I mostly PvP and BGs and IC, because the riding simulator is just boring and feels like a punishment every time you need to move. Yeah. And, with a lot of PvP games, that is how they balance them to some degree, is by making distances to travel great. It's just a question of like how boring it is. And since they completely defeatured Cyrodiil to save on, in theory, to make it run a little bit smoother, which I don't know if that ever happened. It it's really boring. Like there's hardly any small plants, there's no animals, there's no anything. So it feels eerie. It feels like you're riding through an incomplete game is what it feels like. I would say. Is that true to anybody? Like it feels like the game is like, 50% complete and you're riding through this massive open area with nothing else in it. Vossball says, in my opinion, BGs are more fun. You can experiment more with builds because it's more of a controlled environment. In Overland, if you don't have enough sustain, you just lose. I want to be a glass cannon, damn it. Yeah, I feel that, Voss Boss. Robert Miller says, I do need to try IC more, especially with the changes they made to the keys and the Telvar vendors. Yeah, now that what Robert Miller is referring to with the keys and the Telvar vendors is, I believe now they are all curated. And so that's also why the cost of powerful assault staffs, ice staffs, has gone down greatly because there's a lot of people that are just farming them. So, cool. Well, art and animation, we get some general props now correctly appear for the beachside drink emote. Hireling Mail. Rank 3 Hireling's Mail will now properly grant potency runes once again. Okay. These hirelings are always kind of lame to me. I never really got anything from them that was amazing, but I guess potency runes isn't maybe the end of the world. Anniversary Jubilee jewel crafting materials awarded for the Anniversary Jubilee gift boxes should now properly scale the level and crafting skill. Anniversary Jubilee gift box is awarded the correct amount of furnacing. The previous PTS version awarded slightly more than intended. Hey, what's going on, Daedric? Daedric says, wait, I might need to go up a little bit higher. Robin says, do you need to try IC more, especially with the changes they made to the keys? Oh, no, we read that. Okay. But friction makes the game better. Double the map size of Cyrodiil and make people travel twice as far. Oh, my God. All right, everybody grab a stone and let's go find Daedric. Alachino says, I'm not a fan of Ciro. Too much riding around. Yeah. And then Lionel, they need to make the province and the small cities objectives like other than keeps. We only have 3 cities to capture. I wish more of the landscape was used for the quest and objectives. Daedric says 2 stones make a lot of friction. Mother Cluckers is riding around is half the fun. I disagree strongly. So if we were starting from first principles, like I think we could all agree that you could make the traveling between point A and point B a lot more fun and a lot more engaging any number of ways, right? So let's just think outside of ESO, right? That'll help us imagine. Okay, let's say you've got some game and you're trying to travel large distances from point A to point B. You know what? Let's say it's a space game. We're just making stuff up here, right? And you got to go from like a planetary system where all the combat happens to another planetary system where all the combat where everything happens. Well, as you jump from one to the other in FTL, maybe there's a mini game where you encounter some, strange creatures where you have to fight or do something else. Or maybe doing the mini game speeds along how fast you would get there. Okay, that's just an example. We could do the same thing with ESO. Maybe it's gates where you have to fight particular gates and take a particular path, and it teleports you from point A to point B. That's just one example, okay? There's a lot of things along the way that could make it more fun than just a boring ride through completely open and featureless terrain. The thing is that ESO wasn't really designed with that in mind, and so that's why they have to like rework all this stuff. It's probably half the work or more to make a new game. Is really the issue. And the thing is that if you make a new game, some number of people are just never gonna. They got sunk cost fallacy. They spend tens of thousands of dollars on ESO, and they're not going to switch over, and they don't want to lose those people. So there's a lot of things you could do. In between, there could also be smaller objectives, more numerous things like that. The best thing, Volsboss says the best thing the Hirelings grants is their little letters, especially that Concat from the Crown Crate store. He's actually the guy who gets your wood, and some of your letters are pretty funny. Uh, Cyrodiil is so large and so many places are unique. However, they are never visited because there is not incentive to do so. Yeah, I understand that, Lionel. I got I got like a long time ago. I was wandering through Cyrodiil trying to like level up PvP or something. I don't even remember what I was doing. And I went to the top of a hill and there's a rare spawn giant up there, like a world boss, and I killed him and he dropped one of the style motifs that gives you like everything of that style, one of the books. And I remember that I was stoked because those sold for like over 1 million gold at the time, this was years ago. And I was like, oh, there's a PvP guy here. And it was that, I don't know, it's kind of cool. Just got to kill him. Um, Robert Miller says, anyone else play Guild Wars 2? World versus World. That's a great example of good mapping and open world PvP. Robert, I thought about Guild Wars multiple times, and I just haven't given it a try because I hear their monetization is as bad as ESO's, if not worse. But that is an interesting thing to like World versus World. Do you think their mapping works a lot better? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Just in a couple of words. I know it might be hard to condense everything into such a small, to a couple of words, but I'd be curious. All right, what else we got? Unearthed some buried treasure chests. Okay. Fixed a few minor visual errors. Cool furnishings. And then some general UI issues. All right, let's jump back. What have we got in the previous weeks? This week's patch introduces adjustments and bug fixes to Vengeance campaign abilities, the Fallen Banner dungeon content, base game content, additional Remedy Cascade, Arcanist, and Unnerving Boneyard. And Chrome to receive a fix. Okay. Crafter's Celebration is back in 2025 for testing while keeping in line with its core features from last year. There have been some technical upgrades to the event. Okay. Robert Miller says it's an amazing way. It's an amazing way back, but got stagnant. They recently finally added some content. Okay. It was amazing way back. Okay. And then Lionel says they should also update Cyrodiil so that Cyrodiil changes with the seasons, like make it snowy during winter, leaf fall during autumn, rainy and stormy, but they cannot add that yet. Yeah, Lionel, I don't think that the servers and the game, the way it's processing information is set up in a way to handle that really. If you guys kept up with any of the Ashes of Creation stuff, they did a technical video that was, it's incredibly long, where they kind of explain like server meshing and how to deal with having a lot of people and how to deal with, seamlessly transitioning from one area of the map that's on one server to another area of the map and interacting with people that might be on a different server. And there is a lot of network stuff. It's all fairly technical. However, my point is that in just from like a very like high level view, if you think about, they went into their game expecting like, hey, there's going to be PvP and there's going to be a lot of it, and that's what we want, and we want it to work really well. And so they designed the entire back end of their system to work a particular way. And then you look at Elder Scrolls, and it wasn't done like that, right? Not at all. And so while it was okay when it first started, before a bunch of stuff was added, you know, as games progress and more code is added upon, it's not some grand master plan of how things should work. And there's a lot of things that they do to kind of trick to make it seem, there's a lot of like back end stuff you can do as a developer to make the game feel better. And, with like, basically like, players, I don't know how to say this in a way that does it without either explaining it or like it sounding like developers doing stuff they're not, but there's basically ways you could trick players is what I'm trying to say. And it's not malicious. It's just a way of dealing with there's going to be some latency, and how do you still make the game feel good? I think with PvE, I don't know how PvP has been, but I know with PvE they've ramped up most of those tricks to like a 10, and to me it's blatantly obvious what's going on, and it doesn't feel very good. The game feels incredibly unresponsive. It's the situation where you like die, but you're outside of an AoE. The game is like, yeah, you can see whatever you're going to see, but like at the end of the day, you were inside the AoE when it actually went off. And so, according to the servers, so you're dead. and that is okay to some extent, but when it gets like when it gets really large, those issues, it becomes very obvious, and then you're like, well, why is this always happening? And then just the general like desync and everything else is kind of it gets a little it's gotten a little out of control in recent history. uh Let me see here. Let me catch up. Missed a couple comments. Robert Miller says the maps have more objectives that are closer together, but the map design creates areas where you can jump on enemy group or hide around a corner. It lets the commander of the Zerg uh, do actual strategies. Okay. Sorry, there's a little bit of a missing space there and then a typo. Okay, yeah. So there's more objectives a little bit closer together, but then a more interesting map design. And again, I think some of that is, the map when they first made it was probably different than maybe the use case was roughly the same, but it was different than what it is now at 10 years on. Vosswall says, it's like if there's a latency issue and you die from being in an AoE, you weren't in there, just change the animation radius so it looks like you were in it. Is that what you mean? Voss Boss, there is a whole host of things you can do from like a on the back end. So one is like assuming certain player behavior and kind of assuming certain things are going to happen. It's also the issue with like dodge roll, right? Like dodge roll, you're considered to be in your old position until you land in the new one, sort of thing, where they don't have to continually update your position. They just assume you're in the old position until they learn that you're in a new one, sort of thing. And so that's why you can't roll dodge certain mechanics. There's also a lot of other stuff that someone more technical, I am familiar with it, but I've never coded it. And so I'm just not as familiar. But one of the issues is like if you have two players and they're attacking each other and it looks like your attack hit, and it looks like to them like your attack hit, what you can just say is like, yeah, both attacks hit, both players killed each other, even though one of them might have been closer together. It's like checking with that player and saying, oh, did it look like you hit? Yeah, okay. Did it look like he hit? Yeah, okay, cool. Well, then you both hit, and we're just going to kill you both. Cool. And you can see more of that type stuff with more like first-person shooter type things. Yeah, but basically what it comes down to is what you see and what's actually happening are being two different things, I suppose. I don't know, maybe we could have somebody on in the future and we could like actually talk more about it. Again, I'm only vaguely, I know that it's a thing and I know there's a whole bunch of ways they do it. And it also depends on like what program, like how your stuff works, right? Like what your back end works. And so a lot of it's pretty technical as well. Sorry, I didn't know this, but do you work at Sauce? No. I do not. No, I don't think they could pay me. I don't think I could pay me enough to work at Sauce. I'm going to be honest. Too much. I would want to work at a company that's doing newer and better things. Elder Scrolls Online. Okay, so let me see here. This week's patch. Oh yeah, we went over some of this. Let's go ahead and move through some of the. So what is the overview here? So the Crafter Celebration. Yeah. Okay. Cool. A big thing with ESO guys is like it just is what it is. The game's 10 years old, and if you're enjoying it and you're having fun, then yeah, exactly. Just that. That's how I feel. I just keep enjoying it, and things I don't enjoy, I don't do. And if and when I stop having fun, I'll stop playing or what have you. I think there's a lot of people that think that ESO is going to make some major changes. There's it's kind of this continual copium in the, we all do it as gamers, right? We want the thing that we love to be great. And we're like, oh man, if they just change this, they just change this. We've just seen over years and years, a lot of you might be new to kind of looking into some of this back end stuff. We've just seen over years and years that people have felt that way. And it's just like a constant string of disappointments. You'll be happier if you just realize that like, hey, it is what it is. There might be some minor changes, but probably nothing huge is going to happen. And nothing, groundbreaking is going to change. The stuff with PvP might be really cool. It might be an improvement, but just, control your expectations. Okay. They're not reinventing the game. They didn't remake the game for, 2025. And so just kind of keep that stuff in mind. All right, Celebration. The Crafter Celebration received so much needed technical upgrades, so we're activating it on PTS this week. Okay, functionality event is as originally intended for the first time. It ran in early 2024 and has the following features: extra harvesting resources, plus 100% inspiration earned, plus 100% writ vouchers earned from new writs. This applies to new writs created during the span of the event. Stored writs before the event going live do not get modified when the event goes up. This was really disappointing to a lot of people. It just, yeah, this is just really disappointing to a lot of people because they saved up writs for it, and then they kind of like threw this on us, and we didn't expect it, and it was pretty upsetting last year. It kind of, I mean, it makes sense, but it also kind of sucks from a player's perspective. Yeah, and then 50% trait transmute and reconstruction cost. Okay, items reconstructed during this event keep their proper deconstructed value even after the event ends. Therefore, if you reconstruct an item for 12 crystals, fully discovered set with event running, it will deconstruct for 12 crystals regardless of whether the event is running or not. Okay. I mean, that's kind of cool. If you got to reconstruct some stuff coming up, now's the time. And then improved chance to receive boosters from deconstruction. Okay, cool. All right, buffs and debuffs. Minor, Prophecy, and Savagery's listed values are now consistent between their tooltip and effects. This now always states the proper granted amount of critical rating equal to 6% based on your level. Oh, are they actually changing the critical value to percent? Is that what they're doing? Are they actually improving? Man, that would be huge. These are the kind of things that you're like, why didn't you do this like 6 years ago? I don't know. Olas Lord, what's the worst update in your opinion? What, like, just in ESO history, the worst update? Or do you mean like on like what's the worst thing I've seen on this update or something? Okay, well, worst update in history. Oh man, I don't know. I would probably worst overall. Yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of really bad ones, and it's kind of like, I would say the worst update is every update where they put out the patch notes. We gave them really good feedback, and then they didn't listen to us. And then it went live, and then they acknowledged it was a problem, and then still didn't listen to us and did something else like instead that wouldn't fix that fixed the problem in a very unsatisfying way. So by that standard, probably most of the updates that ESO has put out. Because they have a long history, for those who don't know, of they put out this stuff on PTS, and then there's a lot of us who would go on and we'd test stuff and come back and we'd give them really good feedback and explain. And you know, some of this stuff, like, you might think that there's a master plan behind everything and that this is a multi-million-dollar company, right? What they sell for? What they sell for? What they sell to you with Microsoft for? Let me see. It was a lot. Let me look this up, guys. We got to know. Oh God, I'm not 7.5 billion. Yeah, it's the 94 says damn true. Yeah. So 7.5 billion rather. Sorry, not 75, 7.5 billion. And so it's not a small indie company. And you know, over the years they put up this stuff. The players give them. You would think with that big of a company that they would have a really good idea of how the game works, how people are playing the game, right, and everything else. And the answer to that is actually that's not true. That is, they actually don't have, and this is witnessed by, when I say they don't understand how the game works, I mean that quite literally. I'm not name calling. Literally, they made it where you could have 100% damage mitigation to where you literally couldn't take any damage. And that only comes about when someone doesn't realize or doesn't know what the code does that calculates damage mitigation. And that's just one example. There are many others. And we would give them really good feedback based on people who know the game better than most of the developers. And And again, this is not name calling. These are just facts. And they would just not listen to us, and then would do things that would, things that they would have obvious consequences to us, and would just, and I've done a video on it, explain. I did one just picking like one thing. This was like, let me just give you a perfect example of why we say they don't play their own game. Here's a set that they put out from, about a year and a half ago or something. Maybe it was more, I don't remember, or maybe it's less, I don't know. and like, you look at this set and you're like, this set's never going to be used, and this is why, and this is, a bunch of things they could do to change it, and etc. And again, they just don't really look at the feedback. The other thing is that ZOS has a policy. I don't know if it's official, but they have a policy of, if you say things that, if you give them feedback that's not in a nice enough way, they'll completely ignore you. And I've even been told by other creators who have worked on their stream team and what have you, that you have to like give them really sugar-coated feedback, or they won't listen to you at all. And that's the only way to get them to listen to you, which is wild to me, because I mean, you guys can I get feedback in all different kinds of ways, and I don't care, and again, it's weird that a $7.5 billion company can be so sensitive, but me as like a little streamer making, $300-400 a month, if on a good month, can be fine with someone saying, hey, your audio sounds like you're in a trash can, and and other mean things, right? I don't care. It's like, okay, cool, appreciate it. My audio was bad there. I need to fix that. And it's weird that this $7.5 billion company with all these people that are supposed to be, professionals can't take feedback that's not in a nice enough way. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, or don't know what I mean, I could show you guys something real quick. Actually, Daedric, man, are you still there? I bet Daedric has it. Do you mind sending me that clip, man, of that I sent you? You know the one I'm talking about. All right, we'll see if we can get that in a second. I don't know, Daedric's probably working. He's probably like listening with one ear. I'm not trying to give you a job, man. Cool. Let me catch up here. Lionel says OakenSoul first iteration. Yeah, there you go. OakenSoul first iteration was ridiculous. Oh, Lionel's just going to give us like a whole list. I'm sorry, Lionel. I wish I could scroll up here. All right, Lionel, this is amazing. Thank you so much. OakenSoul first iteration, Crimson Patch, Savage Werewolf meta, and this stupid Cash Master weapon patch. There you go. Okay, there's just a couple. There's countless, guys. And understand that I know if you're new to this, I hope that you guys don't feel like we're bashing on the company or whatever. I mean, in some ways that I think a lot of us have a pretty low opinion of the company. It's well earned, I promise you. But if you're new to this and you're like, man, I love this game. You guys play this game. Do you not love this game? We do. We enjoy it. It's just a case of, they've gotten away with never fixing bugs and putting out buggy content. And I mean ZeniMax Online Studios, but I mean Bethesda as a whole, their entire history. And they just have gotten away with it for the longest time. And the thing is that their quality of how much fun the game has gone down, and the amount of bugs has gone up. And so eventually it reaches this critical threshold where you're like, well, the fun that the game is giving me and the annoyance of the bugs, because these detract from the fun, right? And then the innate fun coming from the game has gone down, and the subtract from all the bugs being in there become higher, into where it's like it's less fun to play. And for a lot of people, it's tipped the scales, and they no longer play. I have friends that drop in just to see what's going on, but they're like, yeah, I don't want to play ESO anymore. Too many bugs, too many issues, predatory monetization. And it's this is how MMOs over time slowly die. They kind of kill themselves. We've seen this with, a bit with World of Warcraft and, every other MMO out there. Not every other, but many other. Hey, Nani, it's going great. Going well. Let me catch up to these these chats here. Boss says the crit chance number system to me is like NFTS. Many a smart men have tried to explain to me why the monkey drawing is worth thousands, but my brain violently rejects the info. I still don't get crit. Yeah, so there's a crit number for those who don't know, and then the crit number you have to figure out what the conversion is to get it to percentage. And it's one of those things that it's fine if they have crit number on the back end and that's how they're using it to track, but whenever they're communicating to the player base, they need to put it in a percentage. Why not do that? It's not that hard. You take the number, you divide it by the critical rating that equals, so I think it's 219. It's changed over the years. It was like 239. I think it's 219 right now. But 219 critical rating gives you 1% increased critical chance or decrease. And so you just got to take the critical number, divide it by that, and that gives you the percentage. Well, if you don't know that number that's 219, I think it is. Again, I could be wrong. And I mean, if I don't know what it is, without looking, most people don't, right? So certainly not the average player. And so how do you make fun and interesting choices about your character when you don't know what that critical rating number does or how it works? Lionel says there's so many bad updates that it's hard to pick one. It's the 94 said, last maybe question. Fang Rush, Deltia, or Gilliam the Rogue, OG content creators. Oh man, I really liked Gilliam back in the day. I didn't really ever watch much Fang Rush. Deltia, back in the day, I did watch his Maelstrom because I was trying to figure out Maelstrom Arena. I've told you guys is why I quit the game the first time because I'm colorblind and there was like a level that I couldn't. And so I watched his on how to get through that. So that was cool. Gilliam the Rogue stuff I really like. He commented on he commented on one of my posts that he was uncomfortable that I mentioned him in one of my videos, and I felt bad because he works for the company now. Lionel says, "Oh my God, when they changed animation canceling, this is when they made the game shit." Okay, all right. For it's the 94 said for me, it's the update. I think 19 World Deltia's gaming quit was the worst. Okay. Hey, what's up, Masad? Said it has nothing to do with the value of the company. It's I'm 40 and every corporation I've worked at, most employees did the bare minimum or less just to pass the time until clocking out. Yeah, I mean that happens, Mersad. I mean that happens in companies that have a bad, you know, and it's really impressive to have that. Like I don't know what it's like over at ZOS, but it's really sad to have that at a game company because most people go into games because they really enjoy them. And that no matter what they're doing, whether or not they're the PR person or whatever, they really enjoy games and they want to talk about them and what have you. So corporate soulless corporations definitely have that feel to it. And the other thing is like there's no investment. If a game sells a lot, what does the average person at that company get? Nothing. Probably laid off. Like, so there's absolutely no incentive for these, for people to, besides the fact that they love what they do and they want to make good games, which I think is true of most of them. What is funny is that crit implication is in percentage, so they can do it but decide not to show it explicitly on the stat sheet. Okay. Yeah, I just think I think it's more, Lionel, I think it's more like, I don't want to say, it's more of lack of attention to detail that they didn't translate it for the characters. But Vossball says, dude, I'm colorblind too. The Spriggan fight, March of Sacrifices, used to kick my ass. Vossboss, so on the Lamia level in Maelstrom Arena, I died hundreds of times on that. And I couldn't figure out why, and because I couldn't see the AoEs at my feet. And then I finally got my she's my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, to come and like, hey, what do you see here? What's going on? And they're like, she didn't play it all, and she's like, I mean, you're standing in those red circles, and I was like, there are red circles. She's like, yeah, and I didn't rage quit right then, but I quit within a week. I wasn't playing ESO anymore. I was pretty pissed. I was pretty upset. It's the 94. Also haven't done VMA with the 10K hours. Oh, wow. Yeah, VMA is one of the things we actually like encourage people to do for like later trials, just because it teaches you how to do mechanics still. I think VMA was pretty well done, Arena. And it also teaches you like, so there are mechanics you absolutely have to do. And it kind of teaches you the basics of, moving around, understanding what's going on, avoiding AoEs and what have you. Abraham the Montgomery says the magic 657 for crit sets is supposed to be 3%. So you can roughly cut the numbers in half to get a rough estimate of the percentage it gives. Yeah, there you go. Maelstrom Arena, Lionel says, is something you do once and then it's just so boring. Yeah. I've gone through it a couple of times. Although I've probably done it more as far as time, I find the Endless Archive to not be incredibly engaging personally, but I know that other people have, we all have different things that we like, right? So stick with what you like. Vadasham is better solo arena. I could do it again and again. Yeah, I wish there were more content like that because I just feel like I wish they would have spent time to make more of those bespoke arenas personally than simply the endless archive because that just it's just the same thing over and over again. And so having different boss fights, different mechanics, and what have you, I prefer a lot more. Um, I'll donate for a carry. The Endless Archive is only tolerable with a partner. It's dreadful solo. Yeah. Yeah, and again, if people like it, I'm very happy for them. I'm just saying, for me personally, I prefer the arenas and stuff like that. Cool. Let me just double check real quick on. So there's a video. I don't know if I want to pull it up, but there's a video of a creator who to talking about the like ZOS only accepting feedback thing. To jump back to that idea, only accepting if it's like really sugar coated. There's a creator, and we might watch the video sometime on stream. I won't do it today. That put out a video that is basically he's trying to get them to like listen to his feedback, and he spends the first minute just glazing like these developers the best, the most passionate people ever, and just going on so that they'll listen to his feedback. Now, if you genuinely feel that way, I think that most people that work at games companies, 99% of them are they're gamers, and they just want to make a good product. They want to make the best product they can. I don't, like that's who those people are. But if the, especially like the top echelon, which might not be part of that 1%, just to let you in on a secret, a lot of game companies, they need intermediaries between the creatives and the finance people, and those people are often turncoats. I'm not saying that's the case at ZOS. I'm not really trying to deal with the specifics or whatever, but that often happens. Anyways, but any company that won't accept feedback unless it's like wrapped in some BS that is just like, you guys are the best ever and whatever, that's just going to make for it, you're just not going to get good feedback. And so, and ZOS over the years has very much prided themselves on not listening to that kind of feedback. And if you go watch videos by like Timothy Kane here on YouTube, who used to work, it's been a long time, but you get the idea that is his take. If you don't say something in a nice enough way, like they're not going to listen to you. And he's kind of hinted like, oh, they know who those people are, and they're not going to listen to you if you provide feedback in a whatever way that they don't consider as positive enough. And what happens is that games and products just get worse when that happens. So it's unfortunate, but. Uh, it's unfortunate, but just kind of the way it is. Vosswall says the Endless Archive is only tolerable. Oh, I'm sorry, we already read that. All right. Well, so we've got here some class abilities. Arcanist, Necromancer. How am I supposed to say this? People always give me a hard time. I say it two ways: Necromancer, Necromancer. The thing is, we always say Necro, so a lot of times I'll say Necro, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I should say the full name. And I'll be like, Necromancer. And I think people give me a, not a bribe for carry, but I'm on stage 7. Hey man, appreciate it, 94. Thanks for the donation, man. That's awesome. Are you talking about in VMA? Lionel says, ZOS ego is so fragile. Like when Mitch's wife disrespected players on that stream. I know they did not care about their customers. Lionel is referring to a live stream that the creative director did, and then his wife got on, and Necromancer. All right, thanks, boss. All right, Necromancer is weird then? Saying it in one word is weird. Necromancer is the way that I should say it. I don't know. I'm half trolling, but I'm also serious. Yeah, so Lionel's referring to a live stream where Mitch, who used to stream, so the creative director used to stream ESO, and his wife got on and said some things that really upset the PvP community. She was kind of like, wah, 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 cry babies, and she literally did this motion, right? That like, oh, they're working on PvP. And obviously it upset a lot of people. I think the biggest thing for me as someone who's like, been married for a while is like some of those comments that she said, I feel like they've talked about and she's heard other people at the company say, and it was just the first time that we were hearing them say that. And I think that is the thing. It's not like she doesn't work at the company. Does she really have that strong of an idea about what the game is like and that people in PvP are crying? No, she almost certainly got that from her husband. And so, and I'm sorry, it's Rich, not Mitch, by the way. Rich Lambert. If we're wondering who we're talking about, I think it's just a typo. Um, and I'm not trying to like hate on anybody for their. I mean, you should be careful. I think they took away his rights to stream. To be honest with you, told him don't do that anymore if you want to keep your job, because he kept doing stuff like that. But you know, I don't want to crucify anybody for what their spouse did or say that, hey, I thought it was good that we could see transparently. I think what we need from that company from ZOS is more transparency, not less. And instead we got less. And so I don't want to like crucify him for that, but it was very telling about how they look at the player base and not as, how I look at you guys is I am grateful that you guys would bother to tune in at all, And so that's huge. I mean, donation, subs, like all that stuff means that, hey, I can keep doing this, and I would like nothing more than for this to be my full time job. And my thought is that, hey, I have viewers, I have customers that like to hear, man, I want to make sure that I'm putting forth the best effort, that I'm putting in all the effort I can, and that I consider each one of my viewers as like valuable. And so while I can't please everybody, and I have to be, true to myself and give my honest opinions on things and what have you, I want to still try to like, I don't know, I consider you guys your customers, right? You're watching. You could not watch. And then what the hell would I do? And so having a company culture where the customers are you have this adversarial relationship and you look down and even when people are cursing at me in the comments and telling me how stupid I am, like at some point like it doesn't make any sense and I'm just like, okay, this person either is having a really bad day or has some mental problems. I'm not going to deal with that. But if it's like genuine feedback, it doesn't matter how you send it, I'm just going to hear it. And the idea that a company would have a culture that their customers are the problem, it's like, oh, now I can see you're going to have 1,000 other issues because of that, and you're not going to listen to feedback as one of the consequences to that. So I don't know. It's perplexing to me, and it's kind of unfortunate. And the thing is that like I've talked about this a bit. Not many people watch some of the videos. I've done a few guys talking about the game industry more broadly. But when you see stuff like that, nothing is going to change at that company. And this goes for all companies. It doesn't have to be game companies unless the leadership changes or there's some sort of come to Jesus moment. And usually the come to Jesus moment means that like some people got to be swapped out. And so that's why, it's like, hey, the game is what it is. Let's enjoy it for what it is. And, let's also control our expectations so that we're not disappointed. Lionel says, I'm paraphrasing, but they just mocked a viewer saying, yeah. I mean, they did. They literally did like a cry. Like I think they did this. Like, oh, they're crying. I know they're working on it. So whatever. Another way you say it always throws me off. And then Necromancer. Okay, Vosswall says, honestly, consider you saying the former out of spite. Oh man. Abraham says, when I'm playing ESO, my wife hears me complaining. She always blames Todd Howard, even though I've explained multiple times it's not his game. Nowadays, I just also blame Todd. Oh, sorry, that's funny. It's just like it's like a meme. Like we'll just blame this person who's a real person, but like almost fictionalized version of them. That's kind of funny. Wampus, thanks, man. Thanks for the $10, guys. Making it rain. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Like doubling my income for the week. Appreciate it, guys. And yeah, I appreciate everybody's a channel member and yeah, the people that give. Nani has been consistent. A lot of people have been consistent for a long time, and I appreciate all of you guys. And these extra bumps are pretty big. They add up over the course of a year. I looked at my income for last year after I did taxes and everything, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is like, over the end of a year, it's like $1,000, and I'm like that's huge. That's It's half the cost of a really nice camera or whatever. So appreciate it, guys. Yeah. The blaming Todd thing is just kind of funny. But yeah, a company should be, and I understand that like individual. I've talked about this before. So a lot of people that went into game design, especially when a lot of the people who work at ZOS got into game design, like social media, we didn't live our lives online the way we do now, right? And so they didn't, you wouldn't expect a lot of the things that came about, right? Where if you're public and you're on Twitter or whatever, and people know where you work, you're going to get people that are mad at you. And you just got to realize now, unfortunately, like that's going to happen, and that if you choose to make it public who you are and where you work, and I know plenty of programmers who do not, and we don't hear from them, and you don't know about them because they are not public facing and they don't want to be, and so they make sure that they're not, and so that's also fine. But it's the people who want it kind of both ways and don't realize you can't do that have, I think, the biggest problem. And then there's also what we see now with a lot of games companies is that they're younger people who are used to the online life and regular life, or just that's just life. That's just what it is. And so they don't have these kind of problems where it's an issue for them when they know that, hey, it's the internet. People are going to say mean things to you. It's going to happen, and so they don't get super upset whenever there's a problem. And then you can also see, I'm gonna keep talking about this until everybody knows what I'm talking about. There are two different ways of doing PR. There is, if you look at a company like Arrowhead Studios, which makes Helldivers, and there are plenty of others that are good examples. Larian Studios, another one, and they have a problem where they mess up. They come out and say, "Hey, we messed up. Yeah, that was bad. Hey, if you want to know what happened, here's what happened." So what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing that's going to make it right for you. Or, hey, we can't really, we're sorry about this. We're going to try to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. And this is what we're doing in the meantime. This one's our bad. We own it. Cool. That paraphrased has come out from Helldivers on multiple, the last one definitely. And each time, whenever you build up trust with your community and they know that you're not lying to them, they go, oh, okay. And some people get really mad. Some people have ridiculous expectations. It's happened with Helldivers where people are like so mad about the game, and they're like, I'm quitting Helldivers, and you're like, dude, what do you? They haven't put out enough content. And me, as someone who covers games, are like, what are you talking about? But like, you're gonna have that. You can't help that. It happens here on the channel. People aren't happy that I haven't done something, and maybe sometimes that's very valid. I'm like, yeah, I should have done that by now or whatever. And other times they're like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm a one-man shop. That's all I can do. But what you shouldn't do is get mad and blame your audience, and also like gaslight them or lie to them or not talk to them. It's just not a good way to do business. If Lionel says, if a company take their customers for granted, customers leave. Yeah, like I have a lot of other games in my stream gallery, so if they don't respect the player base, that try to give good feedback, then you're walking away. Yeah, exactly, Lionel. And a lot of us in a situation where like we're enjoying ESO. If a better game comes around, which it eventually will, I'll move over. Am I going to stop playing ESO at that point? Like, probably not. I'll just drop in and play a lot less, right? And then eventually, just like every game, right, you do stop playing it because new games come out and what have you. But by that time, I think most of us will have moved on kind of as a community and stuff too. And the other thing is like, being able to I like trials. I just drop in and run trials, right? Like I can do that a couple times a week. And once you have everything farmed, like I don't have to do anything else. So it's just, but am I going to be spending more money on the game? Probably not. Yeah. Wampus, you took my spot. Mersad says, imagine they actually implemented everything the community requested. We wouldn't care as much about being called whiny. Yeah. I mean, if they just listened, for sure. Vengeance on payday. Lionel says, the same can be said about the music industry and cinema in Hollywood. Yeah, I don't know specifically if you have something you're talking about there, Lionel. I will say that one of the things that is very similar in the like music, well, I don't know about music, but I know this is true for cinema, is that a lot of people with the money have no idea what how to make it, how to get a good movie out. And it's because there are so many moving pieces and there's so much that can go wrong. So there could be, excuse me, I'm just closing a window here. So there could be issues with um, having a good director, but then there's all, and having good actors, but then also having good execution. And then there's many things that go into making a good movie, and it's kind of a crapshoot. And so what they'll often do is like, well, if we just make, a sequel, we all know this, right? This is common knowledge why I'm talking about it. If we just make a sequel, some number of people will come see it even if it ends up being garbage. And so that's what they'll green light as opposed to doing some original work. We also see the same thing with video games with large companies. That's why I really think that indie game companies are the future. Um, Leroy told me to donate. Hey, Emmett, what's going on? Good to see you. Vossball says, God forbid a company cater to their audience. Yeah, I know. I know, right? I mean, Arrowhead, guys. And I know that the style of game they made is not for everybody, but Arrowhead is such a good company with the way they treat the customers, where they're like, there was an issue with a monetization thing, and they were like, yeah, we kind of didn't do that one well, and they gave a bunch of free stuff away instead of like have it be poorly monetized. And it was like, yeah, you build up so much goodwill. Arrowhead's next game, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna buy it, okay? Because I know that Arrowhead makes great games. The next game by Bethesda, I also am not going to buy it because I know what kind of company it is. And maybe after a couple of months I'll hear it's great and I'll hop over and play it, but I'm not buying it when it comes out. And I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be the next, game for me. And that's what you find with these companies is that, like, what have they made in the past? Who's there? Are the people still there who are in charge, and how do they treat their customers? Uh, Leroy should be toppled. That's the haters, but there's a difference between haters and people who care and dare to tell you the truth. Yeah. And of course, the voices of haters should not be considered. Yeah. Lionel, are you French Canadian? Or is that something else? I see the accent marks popping up. Robert Miller says New World was great, and then they screwed over the entire PC player base. They added console, and that's keeping them alive for now, but we'll see how long that lasts and rebuild the PC player base. Robert, I have seen that with several games, and it really is unfortunate to me. There is a way to make a game for both consoles and PC, and there is a way not to do it. And usually if you make it for one and then try to port it to the other, it doesn't work very well because you didn't plan with the whole thing in mind, and you have to change so many stuff. A game that really did that for me was Stellaris. Stellaris, whenever they changed to be able to open up to sell more copies to the console crowd, they kind of ruined the game. And it's not that I don't want console players to have great games or whatever. It's just that the way they changed it just kind of ruined the experience for their existing customers, and I think that's a problem. And it's it's a problem for the business. They got to do something. Nani, thank you, Nani. Thanks the $10. Gosh, guys, I don't know what to say. I appreciate it, everybody. But what you see with with these companies is when they do that, it's a hard. You have a pre-existing thing you made for one thing, and then now you're trying to port it to another, and oftentimes it doesn't work out. That didn't work very well with Conan Exiles. They had some issues and still do, and it's kind of like, well, the game is, probably not getting too many more updates, so it's kind of just is what it is. Shrek 5, cough, Shrek 5. Oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, it all depends on the kind of feedback. They love a milk good franchise with pointless sequels. Have you ever played any From Software games? Lionel, yes, I have, but only a couple, and not a lot. Eamon Peterson says, miss the old days. You could rent a game at Blockbuster and then take it back. Hey, Emmett, man, you got a great point there. That's why I like playing some of these, smaller type games. Like, a lot of people have not really enjoyed watching it a whole lot, so I haven't played it a ton on stream. Oh yeah, by the way, for those wondering, Verballs, we got an interview after this stream. We're going to jump over and interview a developer on this game, which we played on stream a couple of times. But a game that I really enjoyed. Where is it? I don't see it. Surely it's in here. There's just too many games. I did have 2 Steam accounts, and I've dropped down to just using just one. But I need to get all the games that I did have on here. I'm wondering if it was on the other Steam account. It might be. But Lunar Lander Beyond is the game. Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Lunar Lander Beyond. If you're looking for like an arcade style game, I really, really enjoyed this. And I've done streams on it, so you can check it out for yourself, decide if you would like it. But I absolutely love this game for like just, and if I was someone who traveled a lot or used like a handheld of any sort, like a game like Lunar Lander Beyond, like those arcade style games you can just play, have fun, and then you're done. I just absolutely love them. So yeah. It's the 94, so you're not going to buy Elder Scrolls 6 in 3 years when it comes out. 94, no, I'm not at launch. Maybe. Robert Mills says 3 years, question mark. Nani, thank you again for the 10 $10. Appreciate it. Lionel says no, I'm French. Okay, yeah, so you're French. So okay, I'm in France, but not tired, just chilling. Oh, okay, cool, man. Cool. I have a lot of friends that are Canadian and up that direction. I need to. Nani says I need to divorce you again soon. I don't know if it got many views, but I've never laughed so much playing a game. Nani, I think we're on for this Wednesday. Nani and I are going to play It Takes Two. We're going to divorce simulator, as we jokingly call it. Nani, I got to a upsetting point in that game, and we're going to have to play through it. I honestly, it upset me enough that I'm mad at the company. The story gets so messed up, but I think we can skip past it or whatever, and it'll be fine. But yeah, that game is really fun. I enjoy playing with you. So, yeah. So you'll see. You play in It Takes Two. It's a really fun indie game. Made a number. It was like best game of 2023. But it was, it's really fun, but it's like a divorce simulator, and the story's kind of just messed up, to be totally honest with you. You're 100% the bad guys in that story, in that game. A game that took me a game that I took time to try, and really like is Hollow Knight. Oh, okay, I don't know that one. It's one of my favorite platformer games. Hollow Knight. Let me pull it up just so I remember that real quick. I appreciate the recommendation. Or, well, I don't think you were trying to recommend it, but it's good to know. There's a couple. I love platformers. They're really fun. It's the 94. Yeah, man, I play Path of Exile. I jumped in with 2, and I played a decent amount, and I think it needs some work. That's another company that I've been really happy with, and then was a little bit disappointed with where they've gone with in-game. I don't think they've made good enough changes right now. But yeah, I definitely want to play some more PoE. Path of Exile 2 in particular. If you like Rayman, Mario platformer, and Zelda exploration, you will love that game. Oh, okay, perfect. Yes, I love those. I love those games. Obviously, Elder Scrolls 6 is releasing 2/22, 2,222. Yeah. Do you have a Discord server, by the way? Lionel, yeah, it's Discord server is all the normal Discord stuff, discord.gg/TWTB. And right now, that is here. I'll put it in chat here for us. But right now, we mostly do ESO, but we've got some other games that we're getting going, and we're starting to play more. Civ has been one. I've been a little bit disappointed with where the Civ series has went. Unfortunately, I still really like it, but it's really hard for multiplayer. It just feels like it's so much a single player game, and that they're kind of like leaning into that. But we play Helldivers a lot, so we'll ping in there for Helldiving, and yeah, we're trying to get some other games going. If guys, also, if you're ever looking for any of my contacts, either nighthero.com will have everything there, or you can also check the YouTube main page, and it should have all the links there for you for the Discord and everything. It Takes Two game gave me a minor headache with the first maze. Yeah, it Takes Two Darkest Dungeon. Thoughts? I haven't played it, but I do know of it. I hear amazing things about it from a lot of people that just absolutely loved it, but I haven't actually I haven't actually played it myself. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if I have this and just haven't played it, or I think I might have it and haven't played it right now. It's a 94. A lot of games that it's one of the reasons why I've started trying to play more games on stream because I need to play them. And it's like, well, if I got to play them just so I could tell you guys about them and what have you, why don't I do it on stream? It makes for not the highest quality of streams, but I still really enjoy doing it. And, I think that some of you guys also still like that style of stream as well. Let me just pop over to Discord here. I'm doing this on my other monitor, so excuse me real quick. And I am just trying to. Our guest that will be joining us should be hopping into the Discord soon. I don't see him just yet, but I just want to make sure that I'm not missing him. All right. So we got some changes. So the Exalt readout and let Seclusa, which I don't want to go into because there might be that it kind of tells you what's going on there. So I don't want to talk about it too much. We have some zone and some quest things. Just some bug fixes, Alliance and PvP war. Lionel says The Elder Scrolls 6 and GTA 6 will take a long time to be released because both games have online service games, ESO and GTA Online. So unless the population plummets, they will not rush the release of those games soon. Yeah, I think that's very true. And I don't know what all ZeniMax and Bethesda as a whole has planned and how that will change with being purchased by Microsoft and what have you. I'm just really looking towards indie companies to make the next great game. And there's a lot of different companies that are, they're independent, all right? They're their own company and they've gotten larger over time. And so I think that we're going to see bigger and bigger games from them. One of the games coming out by Funcom, and I don't know a lot about Funcom. Some of the developers seem pretty nerdy. They seem pretty cool. I've also seen some corporate stuff from them, so I don't know how to judge all that. But Funcom is they made Conan Exiles, which we've played here a little bit, and then they also are making Dune Awakening. So this is a survival MMO, and that will be out in March, I believe. They've announced the date for that. I'll be talking more about it. I've also done a video here on the channel about it, but that is a company that has been making MMOs, like kind of like B tier MMOs, like, and I don't mean that to insult the games themselves, but I mean that as far as their popularity has never quite reached, the mainstream as much. And so Dune Awakening might be their game that actually really reaches the mainstream. And so I'm really interested to see what they've made. I don't know if it's going to be good. They have a lot of features that sound like they're going to be really good. A lot of everything I've seen and heard, it sounds really great. And so I'm looking forward to maybe, that being one of the next big things for the summer. Fingers crossed. Could also be terrible. Could also be like poor implementation. You can have the best ideas in the world. If they're not implemented well, it doesn't matter. So yeah, we'll just, keep an eye out. So looking at other games towards the future. And the thing that I want, and I think many of you want, is I want a game that my core game, I want to be able to play with a bunch of my friends and be able to interact with them. And so I think that is, still, while I'll play these arcade games and I enjoy them, I find them genuinely fun and everything like that. I still, for like my core game, the game that I spend, most of my time playing, I want something that is social that I can play with you guys. We can play in the guild and everything in the Discord and what have you. I still want that. And I find other games, while very fun and compelling, and I play games all the time, right? So I have time to play everything. I think most people, you have one core game and then maybe you dabble with a couple of others at different times, depending on, what's going on. But yeah, we'll see how that works out. I think it should be really interesting. I know it's a game, it's sci-fi, and so for people like my wife, she just loves fantasy, and so it's kind of a non-starter for her. All right, let's jump back, cover these patch notes a little bit more. I want to kind of rush through them a bit, not rush through, but we'll move through them quickly here. So Battlegrounds in Port Dufort. We fixed the spot behind a particular crate where you could previously get stuck. If you're very low rank, you will no longer sometimes be matched with players ranked far above you. That's good. General, some way shrines previously unavailable while in the Vengeance campaign are now accessible. Okay, poisons may be visible while in the Vengeance campaign. However, like other non-Vengeance sourced consumables, they're not usable. Okay. In case there are some weapons traits persist while in previous weeks of Vengeance testings, those traits are now removed. Okay, adjusted the run focus and run power abilities that the Mender Guards and Cyrodiil cast to reduce their strain on the server. Okay. Reduce focus now. So is it just one mega server for all of Cyrodiil? Is that what's going on here? Is that why there's so many issues with the server? Somebody that's into PvP, let me know. Would you say that it's too late for ESO to get into the competitive side? For PvP, Lionel, I think that, or what do you mean specifically for that? I think that if it hasn't happened by now, I don't think it's going to happen. And I also don't think that the company is reliable enough for it to be a thing. We've seen this. There can be games where like the community really makes the competitive scene for it, and it can be interesting and work well and what have you. For that to happen, though, the stars have to align, and it has to be possible for the players to do that, or the company has to be more involved and more responsive. For PvP and for trial speedruns, yeah. So for trial speedruns, the game is too buggy. You know, and there's too many issues for that to ever be a thing. And I think it's the same essentially for PvP. I don't think that there is a world where the game itself, the problem is the core backbone of the game doesn't seem to be capable, or yeah, it doesn't seem to be capable of doing what I think a lot of us would like it to do. And that's why we have to look for newer games with newer software that are optimized for that sort of thing. And so I think that a bit that has passed. WoW has that. I wish ESO also did. Yeah, I mean, so that's a great point. I'm trying to be as generous as I can here, and I'm trying not to. I'm just trying to be as generous as I can here, guys. So and so doing, I think I'm a bit beating around the bush, to probably the detriment of you guys, of my viewers, and I'm sorry about that. So let me just say this: there are features in WoW that was made in 2004 that have always been better than ESO that was made in 2014, a decade later. And a decade past that, so 2 decades from when WoW came out, there are features that still worked better in World of Warcraft than they have ever worked in ESO. Now, I don't want to use tab targeting like WoW does. I just can't go back to tab targeting. I also don't necessarily like the cartoony nature as much as the graphics in ESO. But, you know, what do you want to? I'm trying to blame the software, but in reality, it's the way the game was designed and the decision making going into designing it and everything else. It's not that they couldn't have done it or not that they can't do it. It's that, well, it's one of those two things. Either they can't, right? It's not possible with the software, or they lack the will, or they lack the technical expertise. And I think it's probably one of the latter two that is the issue. It's not necessarily that they can't, it's that they lack the will and or the technical expertise to make it happen. And so I think that we have seen ESO move incredibly slow. They kind of see it as a feature where like, hey, we're talking about things that are years out, and like, oh, we're planning a year and a half ahead of time or whatever. And you're like, yeah, that just means that you're really slow. Any changes that you're going to implement are a year and a half away. So if you decide today you're going to do it, you're a year and a half from it, which for the rest of us, you know, for most of us in the community is like an eternity, right? Like there's going to be multiple games coming out, and we can see that, you know, again, I'm not trying to name call or anything else, but like we can see that there are features in WoW, like when you pull a mob in ESO, you get stuck at the door, right? You get stuck at the door of dungeons. Happens all the time. I was running, I got my random normal. I got Blackheart Haven, and you can't get through the door. You aggroed some mob, but it can't figure out its pathing to get to you.
World of Warcraft in, I don't know, the aughts sometime, you could pull a mob, you could pull an entire dungeon, and it would be fine, and they would all come find their way to you, and you would have to kill them. That is a situation that is better in WoW than it's ever been in ESO, and it's because of I don't know, pathing, AI, whatever. And so, we still get stuck on doors. There's still doors that you get stuck on in ESO, and it's like, this is crazy, right? It Yeah. So the idea that they would go into a competitive scene is, I don't think that the core. I don't think the game works well enough to do that. You know, Instances get bugged. Um, Things, abilities don't work right. I mean, I can't get my skills to bar swap right now. So I think as long as those things are there, there's not really a lot of hope for it. So just kind of is what it is. All right, let's see what we got here. In case, so we got some general stuff and some battleground stuff. I think, we went through some of that. Cool, cool, cool. Vengeance abilities, Herald of the Tomb, Vengeance bears inspiration. The weapon's visuals for this ability no longer become stuck on the player. Vengeance, um, I think it's Abyssal Impact. This ability now cannot be cast while silenced. Curative Rune Forms, Vengeance Arcanist Domain. The visual of this ability are now focused on the caster rather than the targeted ally. Soldier of the Apocrypha, Vengeance Fate Woven Armor. The minor breach applied for this ability will now consistently apply to closest enemies. Vengeance Gibbering Shield. This ultimate damage will now correctly remove stealth or invisibility from enemies hit. Dragonite, Ardent Flame, so Vengeance Fire Breath. The tooltip for this ability now mentions its target cap. Okay, Earthen Heart, Vengeance Stormfist. This ability now cannot be activated while silenced. Have any of you guys played on this Vengeance? Like, have with a lot of these skills in Cyrodiil? Like, have there been enough people that you can get two ball groups together and do stuff? I'd be curious. Boss says, when they finally fixed the portal in White Gold Tower, I literally popped off. Now that I think about it, it's wild. I was celebrating them doing the bare minimum, making their game playable. Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happens, and a little bit of why it's really good to step out and check out other games and see how other games companies are treating their player base. Adolfo says Throne and Liberty has so much potential. I had to stop playing because the combat wasn't fluid as ESO, so clunky, but the story in the world is amazing. Yeah. Lionel says, will you be doing the Vengeance campaign, by the way? Lionel, I want to check it out. I will definitely check it out. I don't know if I'll check it out on stream. I mean, if you guys want me to, I'll happy to do it. But I've just been waiting for live because again, from years and years of not being listened to, I don't really participate so much in the testing on the servers, on the PTS servers. I kind of just wait to see what comes out, just because I feel like it's, as someone who does this as a business, I just feel like it's a waste of my time, and so I don't pop on there as much. But when it comes out, yeah, I'm happy to. If you guys want me to, I'll pop in there. I've been thinking about and wanting to maybe brush off my Nightblade, although there have been some rough changes that are going to affect them. Maybe not rough, but some changes that will make them harder to use, which might be warranted, to be totally honest with you. But it's still a bummer nonetheless whenever you're the player and your class gets nerfed. Hey, Terrell, what's going on? So we got some Gravelord abilities. I think a lot of these are with. Okay, minor vulnerability status applied for this ability can now be cleansed. The ability now costs a proper resource. That's important. Bone Tyrant, Vengeance, Bone Armor. This ability previously stated that it also granted minor resolve. This has been fixed and no longer mentions granting minor resolve. Okay, they cut and pasted from the non-vengeance ability. That's kind of funny because it does that. Vengeance Bone Totem, the major main status applied for this ability, can now be cleansed. Living Death, Vengeance Expunge. Activate this ability, no longer removes stealth. Okay. Nightblade Shadow, Vengeance Path of Darkness. This ability goes to the closest allies in the area. Okay, that's how Wall of Elements works for enemies. So makes sense. Dark Magic from Sorcerer, Vengeance Negate Magic. This ultimate will no longer ignore line of sight when being used. Storm Calling, Vengeance Surge. Activating this ability no longer removes stealth. Warden, Animal Companion, Vengeance Falcon Swiftness. This ability now correctly costs resources to cast. Okay. Green Balance, Vengeance, Nature's Grasp. Fix an issue where this ability could be dodged by allies. And again, remember everybody, for those who don't know, these are PvP skills. the Vengeance version. So the simplified and reduced down to reduce issues with Cyrodiil. So winners embrace Vengeance Arctic Wind. This ability no longer breaks stealth when cast. The changes to Arctic Wind for the Warden really suck for PvE, and I think they did it for PvP, and it just sucks that you can't use that as your heal. It's such a bummer. Nani asks, what are they doing to my tank? These are. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So these are vengeance skills, Nani. So you're okay. I think we're okay. We can pop back. We'll actually pop back to the first one. Events and celebrations. So the drop chance of the first pouch of ill-gotten goods found each day has been increased. So this is a new event for those who don't know, Crime Wave, and it's a really cool idea. The original implementation, I jumped on the PTS and we actually did it on stream and it sucked. So they've upped the drop rates, updated the help entry sections to be more clear, clarified that extra fence interactions increased in the baseline and stack additively with other fence interaction bonuses, clarified that murdering someone and looting their corpse counts as pickpocketing with less of a challenge, but pickpocketing all the same. Okay. Yeah. It's a really fun idea. It's one of those things that I'm afraid they implemented it so poorly that they're going to consider that it didn't work when it wasn't. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's just it's not good implementation. It sucks, but I think it just is the way it is. Linus says, no, it's fine if you do it on live. PTS does not have enough players anyways. Okay. Yeah, Adolfo. Yeah. Same with Nani. These are all for PvP, guys. That's why when they say vengeance in front of them, that's letting you know that it's these vengeance abilities. We can jump back and see what other changes they have. So because they did make some changes to the Nightblade for stealth. For those of you who are interested in stealing and doing the stealth kind of stuff, that are kind of wild. Abraham says, I think they can solve all the server stress issues by getting rid of winged twilights in PvP. Nobody likes them anyways. Honestly, the pets being targetable in PvP is pretty annoying and kind of people can hide behind their pets sometimes, and it's the most annoying thing in the world. And it's just like, yeah, this doesn't feel fun. Lionel says Nightblade is fun to play currently. Yeah, they're great. They changed that skill so many times. It's irritable. Like even the Warden Piercing Cold is so stupid for PvP. Yeah. Is there a new PTS version out, or is this these Terrell, we're going through all the notes, man, but yeah, we went to 10.3.4, we're at 10.3.3, and I was just kind of working my way back to kind of cover everything that's happened because we haven't covered the intervening patch notes. Yeah, this Crime Wave could be really fun. The pouch of ill-gotten goods, they were incredibly rare, and then they were incredibly lackluster once you got them. It sounds like you're going to easily be able to get one, but if they're not good, then why does it matter? So we'll see. And then there's also not like a lot of good places to pickpocket. There's only a couple areas that they really considered how pickpocketing would work, and most of the other areas they didn't consider at all whenever world building, and they would need to go around and move some NPCs. And the other thing is they need to make there be some interesting and unique drops. They need to change the loot tables. There's a couple of places that have interesting and cool loot tables that will give you unique items, but they're few and far between, and there's not enough. Yeah. So endeavors and golden pursuits. Okay. Activates asking you to devour corpses. Okay. We'll count correctly. Cool. Your loading times when limit background FPS is enabled won't be negatively impacted. Refine the text in Slayer of Death itself achievement to be more specific. Quest and zones. All right. Cool. And then add-ons fixed an issue where add-on files underneath PC and keyboard folders would still load on a console and enforce console flow mode. Okay. Add-ons should be correctly disabled after emergency reload when using Force Console Flow 2. Cool. Gamepad stuff. Mundus Stone bonuses are now properly displaying in advanced stats with a character sheet. Mundus Boon names display correctly. And then Greyhome's name will now be displayed on the Tamriel map. Okay, cool. So that's some basic stuff there. Guys, we're running a little, we're not we're not like out of time now. We still got another 30 minutes here, but I'm afraid just because I mean I'm enjoying talking and everything. We're kind of going with the flow that if I don't jump back or kind of cut it to well, we'll just have to go kind of briefly through some of this stuff. So anniversary Jubilee event, another year, another Jubilee. Okay, so we got another cake. Is there anything major? The impresario will sell replica cakes. Cool. As with last year and years going forward, the plus 100% experience bonus once gained from eating cake is now passive throughout the event. No actions required. They also they changed this so that you couldn't store up characters, like log off with them with this bonus and like keep it for some later date. It was a case of fixing a thing that was never really a problem. Who cares? They care because they really want to be able to push people to log in at certain times so that they can, it's a monetary thing, so they can really keep you hooked on the game. And it really is meant to be like hooked. It's just like, this is a case, we watched Sven from Larian Studios the other day, right? And he talked about not putting things in the game that detract from how good the game is, or only there for monetary reasons, right? They're not there to make the game better. And this is a case of one of those that this is only, just making changes that are just there for monetary reasons and not to make the game better. It's just unfortunate to see it happening, Most of the text is RP anyways. Yeah. Cool. So you can find anniversary Jubilee boxes from the followings. Cool. I think this is all. I don't know. They're saying stuff that we should all know. Sorry, all of us who play the game way too much all know. I don't know why they're telling us. The first one you get each day is gold quality and has the best chance for Chinese rewards. Yeah, cool. Unique and bound style pages from 2024 are also back. Cool. Nothing crazy here. New loading screens for your viewing pleasure. All right. More about the dungeons. We won't go into those, guys. If you're interested, let me know if you're interested in seeing the like a lot of people ask or will make comments when we talk about like, oh, I don't know how people go into content blind. I love going into content blind. There's also a pretty, like, it's not that hard if you know the basics, and I've considered doing it as kind of a like, let me show you how you figure stuff out if you're going in blind, so that you can have that chance to explore yourself. And again, this is coming from someone with like, ridiculous, thousands of hours in the game or whatever, maybe tens of thousands. I don't remember how many I have. Let me pull it up. How many was it? Was it like 20,000 or something? Let's look. It's a lot. There you go, 20,000, almost 21,000. So as someone with 21,000 hours in the game, it's very easy to me. But I can explain it in a way that it's very easy to kind of pick up. So let me know if you guys are interested in that, and we can kind of go through. And because I love that experience, I love going into things blind and kind of figuring it out. But also, like, I know enough about the game and how things work that I can kind of figure things out. And you could figure it out with your group, and it could be really fun. And a lot of people who are newer to the game, I know that can feel like witchcraft, magic, and people have made comments like, I don't know how these people do it. And it's like, oh, it's, and they're talking about, it's like, no, you can do it, I can do it, everybody can do it. It's not, I mean, you need, there's information you need to know, hence the why I would cover it in a video or go through it on a live stream, but it's not something that is out of reach by any means. And there's a lot of things that are added into the game to help. It's one of the better features, honestly, that ESO does incredibly well with their telegraphing and preview mechanics and what have you. I love going into content blind, but there's a huge knowledge gap depending on the role. Yeah. That's what Rob Miller said. And Boss says, I love going into content blind. Extra points if it's vet blind, gold stars if it's a pug group, extra credit if you manage to gaslight the team into thinking you know what you are doing. Boss, that's fun. It's the 94 says, I detour the conversation. Operation successful. Yeah, they Boss, it's the healer's fault for the fourth wipe, I swear. I mean, yeah, you're going to blame the healer regardless. You don't know why you're dying, but it's the healer's fault, right? Like, that's what you got to do. It is kind of hilarious how much of a meme that is and how much it still happens. It's like, oh, somebody died. Like, it's got to be the healer's fault. It's always the healer's fault. Yeah. All right. Prologue quest, the Guild in Crisis, fix several typos, the journal update. Okay, cool. Well, that's nothing important. Fixed. The achievement commemorative safe box looter is no longer misses several zones when working towards the achievement. There are, I think this is referring to, there are like special safe boxes that are located throughout the different zones, and they're really there just for the achievement. They don't give you anything else. Man, it's a fun idea. I wish there were better rewards attached to it, but yeah, it's cool. Sanity's Edge, Onsel the Tormentor. You are now restricted from using abilities such as precognition during and for short times following the attunement process. Ah, okay. Is that where you get the debuff, and you could just like precog out of it? I'm guessing something so yeah, it has to be almost certainly right. Just judging by I don't know what the ability is called. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's interesting. They're stopping people from finding new and interesting ways of getting through content. If you're a tank, hey, what's up, Juan Carlos? It's good to see you, man. If you are a tank and go into content blind, I feel like they always put the blame on you. Yeah, I mean, maybe. That's hard. You know what? That's actually a good point. It can be kind of tricky when you go into content blind if you're not experienced. So if I go into content blind and I get killed by something, I can generally, certainly after a couple of times, I can definitely say like that damage is that's a mechanic and we're not doing it because I can't live through that. And I could imagine somebody new might think that about something that it wasn't true for, where they could live through it if they had the right build, if they had all their buffs up and stuff like that. That's fair. So yeah, there could be some skill there for sure. People were cheesing it. Okay, that's the only reason they made that change. Okay, I mean that's fair. Tank has the biggest knowledge gaps of all rules. They have to know or figure out all the mechanics for everyone else. Yeah, tanking is incredibly hard, and the fact that many abilities, block included, doesn't always work, taunt doesn't always work right, makes it just like that much harder. It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, tanks are expected to know the mechanics in most cases, for sure. Yeah, DPS can generally just like DPS, right? You just press the buttons and you're good. Healers and tanks. Healers, it's important so you can keep the group alive. So there's some vengeance abilities. We've already gone through a bunch of them. We're gonna kind of skip through this, guys, just for time's sake. And then they changed the way some of the mapping and stuff is working. Nothing crazy there. I'm a little bit worried that our friend who will be joining us in just a little bit is either already in the Discord and I didn't catch them, or they're not in the Discord yet, and we'll have to join, but we'll get it all figured out. Let me just send a message real quick. Cool. All right. So this is from the second week here, and let's see what we got to walk through. Tanks. Okay, yeah, we already read that. Cyrodiil Champions Test, aka Venge Champion. So this is, for those who don't know about it, I think this is the big changes coming. And this new test for Cyrodiil is focused directly on reducing ability, complexity, and efforts to cut down on server stress when mass battles occur. Anything you see that's enabled or disabled during this test is purely for the sake of performance and getting calculations as low as possible on the server. Support systems, which are normally on, such as mail, achievements, leaderboards, etc., are disabled for this test. So, they're gonna explain a little bit more. This is due to the overhead they presented when having temporary alterations to your character while in Cyrodiil for this test. When you enter Vengeance during this test, you'll engage with the smallest footprint of ability usage we can muster while retaining your class flavor. We hope to see improved server performance gains with much higher populations than we've seen in the past. We look forward to your feedback and participation in this unique test. And actually, I'll just continue reading this, and then I'll provide the comments because they might talk about some stuff that I would just repeat. So for PTS, we are testing purely functionality and not gathering data about server performance until this test goes live later in March after U45 has launched. The reason for that is because there's not enough population on the PTS, is what I would imagine. These are some of the core questions we are looking for. We will also note these in the feedback and bugs threads for the Vengeance campaign. Do characters properly zone into Cyrodiil when templatize stats and gear? Do characters earn XP, AP, gold upon leaving? Do siege weapons still function? Okay. So I talked to a friend of mine who is a developer. He's someone who actually writes code on the back end for a large game company. You guys, one of the very large ones, you guys would know it. And when we're talking about this, he told me that the trying to get back to the levels that they initially had a decade ago as far as performance and everything after all the things that have been added to the game over the course of 10 years, he said actually is like a very, like, it's a reasonable goal, but it's also like, it's not trivial. And if they did that, that would be like good work on their part. That was his take on it. And this is someone who has no problem with being critical against ZOS and has been before to me and, whatever. So, and he also said to me that the way they're going about it made a lot of sense. To him, you can only know so much from the outside, but to him, it seemed like a very rational way to go about this testing. So I know that we kind of memed on it, and I think it was a very bad PR move on them to be like, we hope to get back to where we were 10 years ago. But from a actual like coding, that's a PR thing. That their marketing people should have figured out a better way to say that. But it actually did seem to him that this was like a noble goal and something that could be possible, but also tricky. They had an Indiana Jones set. It rewards from the new dungeon that shoots off a giant boulder stone in a straight path. That's pretty funny. That's awesome. Boss, we don't have enough free labor to test our game. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is that, like, we would get on and they would get a bunch of free labor to test the game, and then they wouldn't listen to us. And that's like what adds the insult to injury, which is why it's like, yeah, I'm just not going to participate. You guys let me know when you got to figure it out. And if people get on, that's great on them. Like, they honestly should give rewards to people for getting on the PTS and helping out, to be totally honest. Additional campaign Vengeance notes. New campaign Vengeance is available during the PTS cycle to test functionality. Cool. So they tested. So probably when this goes live, there's going to be some major issues. I think they were trying to just test. It sounded like the bare minimum. Like, you can zone in, and zoning in, like, set your template correctly. That's the kind of stuff they were looking for. So expect when this goes live there to be a lot of bugs with it. Just keep that in mind, and we'll see how it works. There's also a lot of limiting on how many people a lot of the items will affect. We saw that a lot. A lot of them it was 3. I don't know how many it is on everything, but I guess again, this is just to cut down on calculations the server has to make so that there's less lag and less issues with that. Player stats will be set not to be altered by any items worn. They can be altered by a bit. So I bet, just like what I know about ESO, I bet that there's some random stuff that works differently and is coded differently that ends up like sneaking through and like, oh, if you wear this or if you do this, like, it'll actually work, because we've seen that a lot. I bet with this Spaghetti Goat ESO, I bet that happens. We'll see. We'll revisit this if I'm right. They can be altered by abilities, granting each template. Everyone is also granted reusable items, such as siege, potions, and soul gems. Siege is also altered in the campaign. Okay, cool. That's just telling us about what all they did. We'll have to see. Jester's Festival is back as with last year and years going forward, plus 100 XP bonus. Cool. For eating the Pie of Misrule. It's now passive. You don't have to do anything. Similar to the Jubilee. Cool. Jester's Festival has some good drops, especially for tanks. That's how you get Jewels of Misrule, which is the budget rate, the thing that I use most of the time for tanking. It's a budget rate food. And the outfits there are also pretty good too. Cool. Well, I think that is, so a lot of stuff with known issues with the campaign. And then I guess we can jump over. So this is the first one. These are the first changes. So I want to jump down to skills because we don't have too much time left. Non-patch note question here. Are there heavy attack stamina builds? Would it be dual wield or bow maybe? Yeah. Robert Miller, I have tried to make a heavy attack two-hander work, and I couldn't do it. There are some skills there that you would look at and you'd be like, maybe this will work now. Whenever they changed it, I don't remember exactly what it was. Probably to like Wrecking Blow or something. I think maybe it was Berserk being added to one of them, and it was still like 5 or 10k below. Like you can do it, but it's not very good. I also would typically recommend running stacking stamina on heavy attack builds because you always have infinite mana from heavy attacking. So having more stamina, I actually recommend running stamina on most heavy attack builds. And I've kind of shown that in some of my older ones that I've done. Not always does it make sense. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's not a big deal to switch over, but typically I do. And then for a bow, the thing is that the heavy attack, so the two meta sets for heavy attack, for those who don't know, is going to be Deadly Strike, which adds 15% increased damage to all of your damage over time abilities, and then the other one is Sergeant's Mail. Sergeant's Mail adds damage to your heavy attacks. The lightning staff ticks multiple times while you're heavy attacking, and it adds damage. Those abilities that add to your heavy attacks add to each tick. At least I think that's what's going on. And so they are objectively better than so the lightning staff is objectively better than all the other heavy attack things besides like a resto staff, right? Which doesn't do as much damage. It did for a little bit, but it doesn't now, because it doesn't add to each tick of that damage. And so that's why those heavy attack builds are always lightning staff. And so that's the rationale there. It would be cool if they opened it up. Also, heavy attack builds where you have to be in melee also aren't as good. But the bow is a good idea. It would be cool. Abraham asks, Knight, I found your healing and tanking guides to be the most realistic and practical. It helped me to go into those roles with great success. Did my first Vet Fang layer clear recently with a Warden tank. Abraham, that's awesome, man. That's so good to hear. Thanks. I appreciate you. Dude, get the warm fuzzies. It's nice getting the positive feedback like that. I'm glad they're helpful. Yeah, I try to be down to earth and help people where they're at, and not give too sweaty of advice. So that's awesome to hear, man. Thanks for passing that along. All right. Cool. Just checking in on our next. Our friend who's going to be joining us. Okay, perfect. For the stream after this, I need to kind of fix some things. Let me do that real quick. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, or if you want to shower me with praise, now's the time. Just kidding. Cool. I think that there is there's going to be some technical difficulties, so we'll see for our friend joining us here in just a second, but not really difficulties, but we might have to. There might be some troubleshooting that has to go on before we can get in there and talk to him and what have you. So let me see here. Hello there. Is this Ryan?
Yes, this is me. Hello.
Awesome. Hey, Ryan. Yeah, just finish it up here, man. Give me just a second, and we can we'll get you on, man.
Oh, no worries.
Cool. I'm gonna start. I think first thing I need to do is crank him up. He's a little bit quiet. Voss says, quotes, I try not to give too sweaty of advice. Streams fresh from the gym, offering advice on the fly. I mean, it's a different kind of sweat there, Voss. Praise be Knight. Troll, I appreciate it. Cool, guys. Well, so we're gonna start transitioning here in a second. So we're gonna stay on the stream for a minute, guys. I've got Ryan who's gonna be joining me. and we're gonna chat about Verballs, which I'm really excited to talk about. And I've got to set up the stream as we're kind of chatting with him. We're just gonna do it live, and then once we got everything set up, we'll actually jump over. But maybe I'll just chat with Ryan a little bit here while we're kind of waiting. Ryan, thanks so much for joining, man. I appreciate you dropping in.
Oh yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
I hear that you didn't expect to be where you're at right now, so you might have some technical things you got to work on, or are you guys all set?
Well, it kind of depends. I have a download of Verballs if we want that. Otherwise, I got Discord. And if there's anything else, I need
Okay.
to set up.
No, that works. That works. Yeah, give me just a second here. Ryan, can you tell us, man? So you're a nerd. You work at a game company, right?
Oh yeah.
What got you into gaming, man? What led you here while we're getting all this set up?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I have my life story, sappy one that I always tell. Was when I was really young. I had cancer when I was 6, and I used to have to go to the hospital every day, and that sucks for anyone who's had to go to the hospital a bunch. And every day they used to have like the little toys in the lobby that were like the little play with things, and those always sucked. But one day they had Super Mario 64 in the lobby, and I remember playing that, and I forgot I was even in a hospital. And then every time I had to go, I was just excited because I got to play Super Mario, and that kind of just made me realize from a young age that video games are more than just a little entertainment thing, and they actually can help a lot. So I just kind of from there always loved them, and then eventually learned you can make them, and I was like, oh my god, of course I want to do that.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah. It's a great story. Not awesome. I know that, I mean, as gamers, I feel like that happens a lot. I feel like I know more people in the kind of gaming community that have, some sort of issue, right? Because what do you do if you're stuck at home, or if you're, I guess in your case, stuck in a hospital, what have you? And I know that there are companies, I've talked to a few of them about maybe doing Ryan, I'm hearing that you're a little bit quiet. There's an echo.
There's an echo?
No, the echo's on my end. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay. I was like,
Oh God. Hey guys, how's the audio now? We doing good? This is the audio test that we needed to do beforehand, but since we're going from one stream to another, that's why we're doing it live here. Thank you guys. Cool. I think we're better. I just need to get you in frame here, and then we'll be good to go.
Man, no worries. We've done very tiny Verballs streams, and I know how hard it is.
Yeah, going live is it's a different animal, huh? Are you? Can I ask this is a personal question? Are you recovered now? Like, are you good?
Oh yeah, this was way back when I was like 6 years old, and basically it ends with them taking a kidney and being like, "You're all good."
Okay, you got another one. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you got two.
I have some close friends that, as a child, had to spend. They didn't have the same experience as you, but they had to spend a lot of time in hospitals and at doctors, and I know that's really, really tough. And so it's really cool that there are people that get to play games while you're in the hospital and forget that you're sick for a little bit. And
video games. It was whoever put those in the lobbies, genius.
Awesome. Now, so for those who don't know, so you're with Boulder Games, right? Is that, or
Yes.
I know there's 3 different, typically there's like a distributor, there's, there might be a marketing or whatever, but you're with Boulder Games, who's actually the creator, and you guys are doing it under Boulder Games as far as the studio, correct? Right? Because I also saw Chimera at one point, and I was like, wait, now.
Yeah, so Boulder Games is the big one, and then Chimera Games is the how do I say it?
Ryan,
The idea person.
Ryan,
who made it.
can I interrupt you, man? Is there any way to get your? I've got you cranked up here on YouTube, but I don't think people can hear you.
Oh, hold on.
All right.
I bet I know it is. Oh wait, no, that's my owl thing. Why is it so quiet? I'm still quiet.
Give me a mic
Hello?
check here.
Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Hello?
Yeah, you're still pretty quiet.
The heck? Hold on. I can try the classic unplug and replug. Okay, check, check. Am I any better?
Yeah, you're a little bit. It's weird because I could hear you peeking out, but for whatever reason, the volume coming through is still low. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's man. I got a shrill voice is really the answer to that one. Let me see. Is there any way I can tweak this myself? There's a condenser microphone. There's a. Let me not automatically determine sensitivity. Does that help?
Say something a little bit longer.
Hello.
Yeah,
my
it's
name
it's
is Ryan
it's
Kenzie.
still fairly quiet.
Dang. I don't know what else I can change. Do I have any other thing on my mic? Is my mic faced the right way? Yep. Okay. Would you believe this is the same issues that happened whenever we went live for Verballs?
Yep. And I know how it is, man.
Camera, USB camera. Do you know of any settings I should check? I'm doing the usual Discord ones.
I don't off the top of my head, although I am. Sorry, I'm trying to mess with your get you lined up here.
No worries.
Hey, there we go. We got Ryan framed in at least.
Condenser microphone, USB condenser microphone.
Nani, who also streams, says it isn't a real stream without tech issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also can just try and talk louder. I'm generally a pretty loud guy.
I guess we can just try that, guys. What do we think? Ryan, maybe we could ask a real serious question. Do you live in the area near Boulder Games?
Yeah, I live
Okay.
In Berthoud, so I'm a little bit far away.
Um,
Well, not far, but
I was going to ask.
30
I
minutes.
mean, if you really work at Boulder Games, I need like how many hours of Ultimate Frisbee do you play a week?
Well, see, now the working in games offsets it. So any exercise, and I'm pretty much out. We played dodgeball, or not dodgeball. We've played kickball once.
Okay.
Ultimate Frisbee, we haven't done yet.
Ultimate Frisbee, for those who don't know, is pretty big. But you're a gamer, so Boulder is also like one of the healthiest cities in the U.S. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna be like, what color is your bike? And if you tell me you don't have one, like I don't.
Yeah. Wait, I will say that I am one of the only people in the office that does not bike frequently, but we have many people bike in every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's nice when you can be close enough that you can do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know what else. So you're still a little bit quiet, and I can hear you yelling. I'm not sure what else to do. I'll double check on Discord here that I've got it cranked up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my own hardware, but that would be weird.
I guess the real question here for the audience, guys, is are we going to be able to hear Ryan enough? Because we could always audible if this just isn't working, and it sounds like we might be okay. We can just kind of deal with it a bit.
Okay. Also, did that help at all? What I just did?
Yes, I think it did.
Haha. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Windows
that's much better.
is limiting my microphone.
Oh, okay. Can you crank it up any more?
Yeah. Hold on, that's me, Max.
Oh, that's good. Okay, now we can do. Okay. Now let me see if I can turn because you are peeking out. Let me see if I can adjust now down.
Yeah.
All right. So you said not Ultimate. You're not playing a lot of Ultimate. Okay.
No, I didn't, which is funny because I'm actually a CU Boulder alumni. So when I was though Spike Ball was way bigger in college than when when I was going than Ultimate.
Okay, cool. It's funny. Nani here is saying that Windows has been doing that since the last update to her as well. Guys, one final check here. How we doing on the audio? Are we good? Are both I and Ryan now at close to the same level? I can hear him great on my side, but I want to make sure that you guys are good. We'll give everybody a second, and if that is good, then we'll wait for everybody to give us a second, but we can jump over.
And the stream starts now.
All right, excellent. Yeah, exactly. Cool. So, all right, guys, give me just a second here. Let me update us over on Twitch, and then we'll actually kick you guys over on YouTube. Guys, you know how it works. YouTube is supposed to kick you over to the next stream, so it makes its own VOD. Sometimes it doesn't do that. You guys, hey, Verballs, we got Verballs in the chat. Oh no, we're on YouTube as well. So you're good, but it'll kick you over to the next stream. If it doesn't, you guys know where to find me, right? Just go to live streams or click on Nightheart Gaming, and it should take you right there. You should be able to pop in. It takes me less than like 30 seconds to switch over, but just give me just a second for that. Appreciate your patience here, Ryan.
Oh yeah, of course.
Appreciate you guys sticking with me here. So we deal with all the fun. I mean, you guys know how it is. Live streaming. It's its own thing. It's a chore sometimes. Not a chore, but there are technical difficulties constantly. So cool. All right, YouTube, we are good. I'm gonna kick you guys over, and we'll be over with Ryan in just a second.